Hi everybody, my name is JC. I'm going to keep the name short. This will be my very first attempt at making a podcast on YouTube. The topic I am going to be talking by myself today will be about a certain hobby that I enjoy doing during my spare time. It's nothing flashy, nothing big. It's simple in my own way, I suppose. It's something I like to do. So basically, this hobby I like to do is making small drawings of cartoon characters, cutting them out, giving them color, and then playing with them. Kind of like my own set of action figures, only cheaper, if you think about it. um, anyway, so to start off with this topic, I'm going to start from the beginning. When I was a child, I always enjoyed watching cartoon characters, watching cartoons basically. Cartoons such as SpongeBob SquarePants, Ed, Edd and Eddy, Looney Tunes, Disney characters, specifically Mickey Mouse. And as a child, not only did I enjoy watching the shows, but I also enjoyed going to the local toy stores like Toys R Us, rest in peace, and KB Toys, also rest in peace, long gone. Anyway, the point is, I always like to go to those toy stores to find any toy I could find related to the TV show, and whenever a episode or a cartoon was on the TV at home, I would always grab whatever character I've purchased, any toy like a plushie or a small 6-inch, 12-inch action figure, um, and I would play with them. I would reenact the story while the story is being projected onto the TV. I would move around with the characters as if they were being controlled like puppets, and it was always fun. And sometimes, whenever there wasn't a an episode on, I would make up my own stories. Just say whatever's on the top of my head. Just reenact uh, stories in my mind with the characters I've purchased. There were always times when I wanted to get a certain character or grab a whole bunch of characters that were on sale. But sometimes I couldn't get it because my parents didn't want me to buy so many toys. And plus, there was also the problem of the toy companies not making a toy of a certain specific character that I wanted to play with. So, yeah, sometimes that made it hard. So then it hit me. I also enjoyed drawing characters, so I figured I could just draw the characters that I didn't have, and I would give them a little color with some markers or some colored pencils, some crayons. Then after coloring them in, I would cut them out with a pair of scissors and then just play with them. Just cut around the edges of the drawn out areas and then just play with them right there along with the TV or through my own stories. Um, as the years went on, what I mostly would do would just draw out the characters. But, well, during my younger years, I wasn't exactly much of a good artist. Well, I mean, I like to think I was, but it wasn't exactly the same as what I saw on TV or on posters or stuff like that. So then, when I was in elementary school, I learned of something called tracing paper. And so then I would use the tracing paper, find pictures of a character, such as a SpongeBob character. Like, I'd find a book in the library. I would find a good pose of SpongeBob that I would find in one of the pages. I'd put the tracing paper on top of it. I would grab a pencil or a pen and just trace out the lines around the character. And as soon as I was done tracing it, I would grab the tracing paper, I'd grab pencils, colored pencils, or markers, which I've actually found markers to be much more easier to color with because I felt like markers had more of a a filling in between the lines and wouldn't go over the black pens. So I would color in with yellows and blues and brown and red and black, and then after I would wait for the ink from the markers to dry up onto the paper, I would grab a pair of scissors. I would cut around the character. I wouldn't cut through the whole picture though, because if I tried cutting everything between the lines, it would cause the thin areas. Say, for example, I was cutting around SpongeBob's arms, which we all know are very thin. I'd cut around them, like completely around them, and if I handled them too roughly, which I unfortunately did because I was pretty young and I wasn't very careful with things, I would unfortunately get the arms ripped off by accident, or I'd get them scrunched. So I would always cut around edges, but still leave some white to keep the paper uh, balanced in a way, to keep it stable. And then eventually I decided that it was more fun to make characters of all of them, because by that time I was kind of obsessed with the right scale, the right size of the characters, making sure that the characters are the exact same sizes as they are shown on television, because we all know that in most cases, action figures or plush toys, um, they are never exactly the same scale and size as they are on television, or basically as they are displayed. Like, for example, sometimes they'll have a SpongeBob plush and a Patrick Star plush, and sometimes they would be the exact same size, which to me was a problem because, as we all know, Patrick is taller and honestly wider than SpongeBob. So by that time, I was mostly interested in getting the exact right scale of the characters. As I would be tracing, I would try to find a way to look for pictures that had SpongeBob and Patrick at the exact right sizes while looking at the television to make certain that they were the right size. And then, as I was entering near middle school, what I found was, say, for example, flat screens for computers or televisions. It doesn't matter if you have tracing paper or regular paper. If you put the sheet of paper in front of the screen, you can just about see right through it at a somewhat more better quality than glass screens. What I did was I would look for pictures of cartoon characters on the internet. I would give them the right scale of how big I wanted the characters to be, and then I would just do this same thing I always did. I would trace over them. I would color them in, cut them up, and in most cases I would put them away in like a small case, like a disc case, or a small safe box, or sometimes even in a pencil box, depending on what I had at my disposal. And I made so many different characters series, such as SpongeBob, Ed, and Eddie, Mickey Mouse, Looney Tunes, and I also did other characters, such as video game characters like Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario, Mega Man, Ratchet and Clank, stuff like that. And then as I went on to doing that for over the last couple of years, from middle school all the way to high school, and then somewhere around the third year I was attending college, I discovered a new way to make the characters with less hassle. See, the problem originally with what I've been doing was while I would always get the characters as best as I could with the right proportions, the right colors, the right sizes, one of the biggest problems I had with the characters was that whenever I drew a character, if I made even the slightest mistake of tracing, like say added a few lines that weren't supposed to be there, like I can't make a perfect circle, or say for example I was still using the markers and I accidentally got a few colors to clash with each other, which would kind of ruin the drawing. But I think one of the biggest problems was the fact that I would accidentally get them wet, or I would accidentally get them ripped, as where it would be hard to redraw and the colors would get all smudged off, showing spots of water or liquid drops, and then I would just have to trace it all over again. But it would be hard because when trying to make the right sizes for characters, I would always have to scale a few areas such as arms, legs, and head in order to match with the right size of the characters from my point of view. It's kind of like putting together a puzzle, getting it ruined, and then having to put that puzzle piece all back up together again, which was, in my honest opinion, getting annoying. So, like I said, by the third or second year of college, I decided to try something new. Back in high school, a friend of mine actually referred to me of something called Paint.net, which, in my honest opinion, is a really good way to draw on the computer. Add color, add effects, whatever you wanted. In most cases, it's not as good as Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, but I guess it works pretty well for me. Um, the problem back then was I was still using an old computer, which at the time was not compatible with that computer, the Paint.net. So around I believe 2014, I think, my younger brother decided he no longer wanted to use his computer, which was more upgraded than the one I was using, because the old one I got in 2006, but the one my brother gave to me was created somewhere around 2011. So I was able to download Paint.net onto the computer, and after that, I bought myself a printer, bought the ink, and decided to try a new method. I would grab the pictures from the computer. I would redraw the characters, only this time, instead of using a pen or a pencil by hand, I would use the computer, the mouse, and Paint.net. I would add layers to the drawings, trace them, give them color um, through the built-in paint bucket. Then I would print them out from the printer, and then I would do the same process. I would cut them up and put them in a box. Or in most cases, to save ink, I would just draw them up, crop around the edges of the character, and then save it away in a folder and keep it on the computer. This way, not only will I no longer have to draw the characters all over again because they might get wet or ripped or sometimes even lost, I can just print them back out. If they're still saved onto the computer, I can just print them up all over again. That way, I won't have to redraw and redraw over and over again, so I can still keep them. And to this day, I still enjoy doing that. I still enjoy drawing cartoon characters, video game characters, and I like to make up my own stories with them. It's kind of like making your own action figures, but just for the fun of it. At least that's the way I see it. So, yeah, that's basically the story of what I like to do during my spare time. They really help me in storytelling, especially with a story that I'm working on with my own characters and my own story, but that is for another time. So, yeah, that was the story of my favorite pastime. And I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. I hope to do more podcasts in the future. If you liked this video, go ahead and leave a like and quite possibly subscribe if you want to. So, yeah, thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope it did well. I hope that you wish to hear from me again. Until next time, this is JC, and I'll be seeing you again hopefully very soon. Have a good day. I thank you. Goodbye.